Carl, is what you see in Silicon Valley consistent with the broader picture being painted by the jobs report today?
It's not only consistent, it's really America on steroids with the way that Silicon Valley across industry clusters keeps going up and to the right, Scarlet. We're seeing it in high-tech, biotech, and pharma, clean and green tech, across the driving industries of Silicon Valley's economy and America's innovation economy. We see just from the 217 CEOs who responded to our annual CEO Biz Climate survey, just those companies, 15,000 new jobs here in Silicon Valley in 2015.
Mr. Guardino, it can't just be about the size of the paycheck. What is attracting this talent, this intellectual capital to Silicon Valley?
Innovation and entrepreneurship. We truly believe in Silicon Valley we have an opportunity to change the world, or at least our small corner of it, for the better. And whether those are jobs in high-tech or biotech and pharma or clean and green tech, it's a very mission-driven culture that attracts the best and the brightest, grown locally from around the country and, of course, from around the world as well.
Carl, the Federal Reserve and investors, therefore, are fixated on wage growth. Wages have been stagnant since 2000. We have a chart that shows all of that, but we are finally beginning to see a pickup in the middle of the last year. In the chart, you can see that in the second quarter of 2014, the median income in Silicon Valley was $116,000, 89% higher than the typical American household income of $61,000. Now, this is all relative, of course, because the cost of living is so much higher in Silicon Valley. My question to you, is there a wage growth problem in Silicon Valley?
Scarlet, in the technology sector, in the driving industries of Silicon Valley, wages are high, and they're only getting higher because the labor market is so tight, and it's really an opportunity for employees to pick where they want to work. The challenge we have in Silicon Valley, though, is if you have a college degree and you're 25 years or older, there's almost no unemployment rate. It's about 2%. But if you only have a high school diploma or not even a high school diploma, you're looking at close to double-digit unemployment. So we as a valley and we as a nation need to do a much better job in making sure that our young people, especially in our underserved ethnic communities, have a better education and opportunities.
I would add to that because even within Silicon Valley's white-collar world, there's a big divide between, say, engineers and coders and VC investors and other white-collar jobs like doctors and lawyers, too.
Well, doctors and lawyers probably do pretty well, but you're right. For those jobs that don't require a college degree, there is a big dip in those numbers. And that, of course, in a supply and demand economy, we would expect somewhat. But we want to make sure that that as many folks are prosperous in this hot economy as possible. And make no mistake, though, the driving industries are so critically important. A rising tide may not lift all boats, but a receding tide sinks them all. So our driving industry is doing well, also helps everyone to do better.
Mr. Guardino, you just spoke a moment ago about underserved communities. Do these communities feel welcome in Silicon Valley? We see the statistics, we see the stories that there seems to be a disparity between Caucasian males and females and other members of the population. How do you address that?
Good question.
And I feel this personally because our daughter is 100% Latina that we adopted out of a small town in Utah a few years ago, and that has really made us dive deep into this issue. So here are the numbers. 27% of our community in Silicon Valley is Latino. 50% of our kindergartners today are Latino, including my own kindergarten daughter. Only 1% of our STEM workforce, actually tech-trained workers in Silicon Valley, are Latino. We have to do a much better job of diversifying the STEM pipeline from cradle through college and career. We're working on that at the Silicon Valley Leadership Group programmatically, but we need to see it in policy at the regional, state, and federal level as well.
Carl, I want to pivot a little bit here to some of your other issues that you've championed, like transportation and housing. Both are needed in Silicon Valley now as the job machine keeps growing here. What can Silicon Valley learn from other innovation tech hubs like Seoul, like Tel Aviv?
Well, Scarlet, you're absolutely right. When we ask those 217 CEOs, what are the biggest challenges you face in the business climate, top two issues: housing prices for our workers and their families, and traffic. And those, of course, are the flip side of the same coin here in Silicon Valley. The good news is when we ask tech workers and other workers in society, it's also those top two issues. So instead of whine about it, we're going to win. The leadership group next year plans to run our 5th transportation funding measure here in the Silicon Valley area in the last 30 years. Right. We've already done that to generate $12 billion in local funds for traffic relief. We're going to do that again in 2016 and then continue to work on both our homeless crisis and our housing crisis.
Sir, is this something that you have to embrace yourself? Because it's no secret that stalemate, partisanship in Washington make a lot of things. They get pushed to the sideline. Nothing can get done.
Mark, you hit it right on the head. We learned a long time ago in Silicon Valley, you have to pull yourself up from your own bootstraps. You hear about bootstrapping with startup companies. We also bootstrap when it comes to tackling these very tough, intransigent issues like traffic, housing, better education system. We're willing to do that, but we'd rather do it and more successfully do it when we have strong public sector partners. That's not always easy in D.C., but we're an optimistic culture out here in Silicon Valley. We'll keep trying.